How's it going, guys? We're back again with some more Heroes of Hammerwatch, and today I'm going to be covering a primary attack build for you guys. Now, this is a bit different from the fountain setup I was using before, as there's a lot more pros and a lot more cons to it, but it still balances out. So we have increased chance of imps for free items, gold, ores, keys. We still have our anti-trap type of stuff, all traps and corridors disabled. Any traps that aren't disabled will deal less damage. Glass walks. Where is it? Glass walks. So we can avoid a good chunk of the traps as well. Treasure hunt for more chests. Demolish spawners. Demolish towers. Or toppled towers. Which means all spawners are going to be automatically dead. We're still going to have to deal with all the enemies. Now, that's a lot of good pros, but now to look at our negatives. We still have lousy consumables on. We have enemy overseers still. We have agile adversaries, so enemies are going to be moving a lot faster. If you are not a class that can clear areas or you're not familiar with builds and such, then you might want to leave this one off. We got miners strike, so we are not going to have our elevator for depositing stuff, and dry springs, so we aren't going to be able to restock on our potions. We still have sealed cracks on, but that pretty much sums all of that up. For our potions today, they're going to be quite different from what we were running before, as we are going to be running Incendiary Demise. So every time we hit something with our primary attack, it's going to do a lot more, but we are going to get a burning damage over time effect put onto us. It's a bit harder to run right off the bat, because the burning does deal a solid amount of damage. We are still going to want Frenetic Eruption because we are going after combo, and this is going to be another combo build. We are going to still want Wicked Sickness, again since it's a combo build, and this is where it changes up a bit more. Is Overflowing Physique, because since we're only using our primary, we are not going to be worrying about mana at all. That buffs our health by quite a bit, and then we are going to look at Crazy Eye for extra crit chance on our primary attack. Now we are going to go over to the shop, and the two important starting items one is still going to be the Lucky Hat. The other one, though, is going to be the Heart Seeker instead of the staff that we ran before. So there's the staff, but that's with skills. We are doing a primary build. So we are going to keep rolling until we get Lucky Hat or Heart Seeker. Their Lucky Hat is, we get extra attack power, extra physical, ignore, a little bit extra crit on primary attack, physical damage ignoring enemies. Now, while the bulk of our damage is going to be coming from the Incendiary Demise scaling with everything, this is also almost a perfect startup. We got some health there too. Same as before, we're gonna buy. You usually aren't going to need more than 15 of each key, even with the increased amount of chests. And we got the Lucky Hat, so we are going to go down and get the Heart Seeker. We got the fountain set up. We got the potions already. We got our statues. We're going to want Callus, which is much like Wilmer was, except for attack power and armor. We got Felarath, which we have a chance to evade enemies. Uh, it's not really used a bunch, but the big one here is increasing the damage done to disarmed and stunned enemies. We want to get our hands on a gladiator's net or something similar that when we hit an enemy, it stuns them and then we will deal more damage. Osrith is still kept because it's just a general damage bump. Any enemies that you kill have the chance to drop Poison Cloud, and if they are in the Poison Cloud, they take extra damage. So again, we'll go... Yeah, we'll go NG8 to make sure it's nice and even. And then again, we want to make sure we spend all our gold to buy ores, since we got all our items, all our potions, and we got our fountain set up. And then here we go. Actually, we got 10 stars. So another big thing as you're pushing through the game is you tune your items over at the anvil here. You can attune it for stars and double how effective the piece is. So if we were to get the armor at King's there, instead of it giving 30 armor, it would give 60. To get the blueprints for that, we would end up going to this guy, and we would just spam this. Now, the higher amounts, you get a blueprint, and you just rinse and repeat that. As far as the stars go that I was talking about, though, if we go up here to the Beastmaster, you can see what each thing does. So total we have 60% extra damage done to that last boss and 14% less damage taken. Now if we scroll down, you have a full list of all of the enemies, all the bosses. And since we got the increased chance for chest rooms, we're not going to want to run any of the skips for this run. Generally speaking, if you are pushing a new NG or you're not sure how effective a build is, you want to do your best to try and avoid these skips as much as possible, because you will usually get more items from running the dungeon regularly. And as you can see, we have 1,000 health. Part of that is because of the potion that we got. Part of it is just because Paladin has a really high health pool compared to most other classes. And then we also have all that lifesteal as well. Now you can see we could still definitely take chunks of damage. So what we want to do is move around while we are doing our damage. And if you aren't in combo, then you can't really move around well doing your primary attack very well without a certain item. As you can see, it was stuttering me every time I did an attack out of combo. And now we are going to go through this regularly, but as I mentioned before, with some of the stuff we're running, it's even more important for us not to skip any portions of each floor, which means we are going to want to take the time to find the buttons for any chests on the different floors. Now we got everything if we look at the map. It's just that one section on the right side which was a dead end. We've got our traps disabled, so we don't have to worry about that. We got an imp already, which is another good example of the fountains buffs. Again, imps, just like your buttons, are always going to be on the top. They will usually be within 1 or 2 rooms of where you are when it spawns. So as you can see, we just went up and we saw the imp right here. So we got a little bit of extra health here. Now we don't need extra skill power, and 1 magical damage on primary attack isn't really going to do a whole lot. However, if we get 2 magical damage and then 1 magical and physical on primary attack, that is going to add up a bit more than just 1. Now, for this still being beginning stages, that's not bad at all. Now, lobby-wise, you can play with up to 4 players on console. I believe it's 16 on PC. We got that book right there. So on average, when you run these skips, I believe it's about 10 items. When you're running the fountain the way that I showed you guys, you have 3 floors, and each floor will usually have anywhere between 3 to 5 chests. Emphasis on usually. The best stuff is until later, but even then, every bit counts, especially early on. You generally have lower stats because you have less items. That, and by not skipping, not only do you hit all of the chests, but you also can come across the imps, the shops, the furnace, where we spent the ore on that skill build video. And then that also adds into how many items you have. You usually end up with quite a bit more items when you don't skip anything. There we go. Defender's Halberd is one of the items I was talking about where you disarm the enemies and stun them. It stops them from attacking at all, and it can be spammed. You can see it doesn't last forever, but if you're right up next to an enemy, you can literally just sit there and they will not be able to attack you. So we got the imp. Now we first are going to take a step up. It doesn't look like it's there, so we are going to go and look to the right. Now, the imps are on a time limit, so we aren't going to be pushing to clear this floor like at all. We want to make sure that we find that imp right away. Now, I think we might have missed the imp, which is a shame. The imps are usually pretty easy to find, though. Now, another big perk of the paladin is you have that dash that you can use to get through traps and enemies and just in general mobility. It's pretty handy for. Now, these are blood rights, these little squares. They give you a random bonus that is permanent, but it also takes off a chunk of what your max HP is. Now, some people love them. I personally usually won't touch them. Because you can usually get items to do the same thing without losing a giant chunk of your max HP. So we definitely missed out on the imp, which is a shame. But it's not the end of the world. This is our first boss in the main tower. Now to take a moment and talk about its attacks. It has that shotgun earthquake one, which is why I was going around in a circle. It also hits the ground, and the stalagmites end up falling from the ceiling of the cave, and those can damage you quite a bit too. That's where I backed away a little bit further. And it also summons bats throughout the fight. So we can see that there's a chest there, so we want to start looking for the button. Oh, and there's an ore thing. So we are going to scroll through here nice and quick. Gladiator's Net. 10% chance to disarm enemies for 3 seconds. We already have the halberd, which does it for 2 seconds, so I'm not too worried about getting that. And then, you know what, we'll grab this for 2 luck. A bit of extra crit never hurts. Now, again, one of the main perks of the paladin if we go down here, is it blocks from the front a 160-degree angle, and it has a bonus chance to block extra damage from any type of angle. I know it says most, but it blocks all type of regular projectiles. There is some kinds that pierce, and that's where just a bit of practice on knowing which projectiles pierce and which don't comes in handy. So this trap, if you step on the wrong one in the wrong order, it will fill the room with bombs like that. But we saw that the upside down V was our first one, and then we step on the next one, and that wasn't it either. Looks like the Y is our second, the caution sign is our third, and then X will be our fourth. Now another good strategy, almost regardless of the class that you're playing, is just go around the corner and let stuff funnel to you, because one hit will usually hit almost everything when they get that close. Okay, there our button is. So we hit that and we can go and get all the chests and stuff now. Okay, so that should have been everything from this floor. We're going to go on to the next floor. Now, as a paladin, or most other classes, I don't really mind not killing each room by room. Okay, so there our imp is. Do we want to send the gold to town? No. Again, we want to hold out in case we get that dragon tail. When you send the gold to town like that, though, it isn't taxed at all, so everything that you send is kept. So I didn't see any chests that were behind the locked doors, so we aren't going to worry too much about hunting for the button this time. Increase attack speed is always handy. Extra potion charges, same thing, always handy. We don't need items that do damage, like this, because that goes off of skill power. So we will grab the vendor's coin for later on to make stuff cheaper. And then we will push to the next floor. Okay, so you can definitely see an increase in attack speed just with those bracers. It's a pretty nice drop that we got there from the shop. And since we got a chest right away, we are going to want to start hunting for the button. Okay, so this is a time trial. Once we step on that first one, there's going to be a square that doesn't have the lightning bolt like that first one right there. And we have to step on each of them as fast as we can. So, okay, so we got 4 out of 5, which isn't bad at all. So we'll clear these enemies up. And then continue hunting for that button. Now again, one of our things is we can't re-get potions. That's why that's not glowing like usual. And there the button is, over on the left side. We can see it there. So now we're going to go up and grab that chest and continue on with our run. Extra 3 physical damage on primary attack, which is pretty nice. Considering we're doing a primary build here, every bit helps. So here is our boss on the second level. The big thing is he summons these skeletons to stop you from moving, and you want to be extra careful of these guys. Now you pack so much damage and lifesteal with this build that you can usually just face tank and attack and rely on your lifesteal to keep your health up. As the paladin though, if stuff gets too dicey, you have your own heal. You don't have to stay inside of that area when it's dropped. Now the biggest thing with the Sork was that you kept your distance, but since that's not an option with the Paladin, the biggest thing is just to continue moving. So we're at 41% crit. We are going to quickly take a browse through here to see if there's anything that we want to pick up. So if we go down, we can see that our main attack does a base of 31 damage. And we are sitting with 256 attack power. So we aren't going to be worried as much about attack power compared to adding a bit of extra damage onto the primary attack. Now, if you get the hero's frying pan with the paladin, you pretty much don't take any type of projectile damage except for the stuff that pierces. But to speed up our runs a little bit, I am going to get the old map, which makes it so we don't have to explore the map to see where everything is, except for if there's a button for chests and stuff. So we can see right away where our objective is, We can just blast right through. You can see our other objective is there, and that there is one chest in the top left side of the map. So we are just going to continue whipping through here. We got the furnace there already, so we are going to go down here. Oh, don't want to miss these diamonds. Blue ones are the least costly. They give you the least amount of money. Goes blue, then red, then yellow/gold. So you can see we have a chest and a trap here, on a little bit higher than us on the map there. So we're going to make sure that this is nice and cleared out before we touch this trap. So those ones that are squares and not grayed out, they only activate when you step on them. So you want to kind of bounce around on those until you get past that center line. Start with that bottom one and go up and around, and then the second that this one is down, you just blast right on through. Now back to the statue that I was talking about earlier. Where this one for evading and disarming. We got the stuff for disarming, but we just picked up an evasion type of weapon, which is basically just a dodge if you're familiar with any type of RPGs, where the enemies swing at you and it counts as a miss or an avoided attack. Now that green orb that the wizards were shooting at us, that is not a blockable attack. Neither are those ones that the ghosts shoot, but the ones that the archers are shooting is completely blockable. So for that reason, you want to target the mages first, and the archers you generally want to save for last, because you're going to be blocking most of the damage from the archers. Now this trap's pretty simple. I'm just going to skip through that because I can take the damage. One thing that I forgot to put on was the Kira statue, which is definitely one of our better options as well. I would probably honestly take that over the Falarath, simply because Kira makes it so that you shoot arrows that still deal your primary damage right off the bat. I just ended up forgetting to add it on. So again, we can see everything in the map. The exclamation marks are objective. We just blasted through that. So now we are going to pretty much just go right to the objective, or the doorway to the next area. So we can see that we have a shop right away, not just on the regular map or UI, but also when we pull up our map, we can see the cash symbol. So again, we already got something to disarm enemies. You can never go wrong with blocking some extra, evading some extra, and having that extra bit of armor and damage returned. Since we are going with a primary build and nothing skill power wise is going to scale for us. Now that Necromancer that had the blue ring around it, you always want to drop those first, or else every single enemy that you kill nearby is going to spawn a ghost. And that generally deals a lot of damage. Now again, we talked about how to tackle this one previously. We're going to go there. And there's a slight delay when you activate these ones, which made it so we could dash through like we did. Okay, so that was our last objective hit. We are going to grab this ore here. We are going to open up our map. We can see that the objective is on the bottom middle. And then this will bring us to our third boss. So the mechanics for this one, before we enter here, there's 3 ghosts that split up, and each have their own unique attack. If you drop one of the ghosts, the other 2 ghosts will get its attack, and if you drop 2 ghosts, the third one will have all of their attacks, and the attacks get a lot harder. They cover more of the screen. So it's best if you are able to drop the ghosts all at the same time. So you can see each of the attacks there. We got this one. It drops the AoE of the purple rings. So now we drop that. This one is going to have all 3 of the attacks, which I'll showcase here. Instead of it dropping 1 or 2 of the white things, you can see how it drops a crap ton. So we finished that, and boom, we are on to the archives. Now, your shield does indeed block these magic bullets that I had mentioned that hit really hard. It just doesn't block the wizard's hits. So what we are going to do here is quickly blast through this first level. We see some gold up here in the form of the diamonds, and we have plenty of keys, so we aren't going to worry too much about that. The little squiggly lines on the map are the portals that I was talking about. So we go through here. We didn't end up getting a trap for that one. We're going to grab these diamonds. And there's a button right there that opens up the exit. Now I think I'm going to go for a skip on this one, just to make things a little bit faster. Now you can see we aren't killing it nearly as fast as we were the other time with the Sork. But we were quite a bit safer because we had that level of health. And we got a bit more lifesteal on our primers, which is always welcome. The only two things we're missing is the Crown of Kings and the Markham's Amulet to make us supremely tanky. Okay, we got some more keys from the imp there. Now, I'm feeling pretty good about my tankiness, so we are just going to dash right through that. But again, as with the fire traps before, you go close by and you can see which ones do have it on or not, and you just make your way through that way. So we can see there's a giant chunk of ores that we do not want to leave behind here. Now you can see our health is still dipping, but I mean that's just because of just how dense these mobs are. They definitely still do a good amount of damage. And then we have this one chest over here behind this trap. Now, again, confident with my tankiness, but what this means is, and there's the pattern up there and right here. But if that's on, then that whole row's disabled. Unless I'm thinking of a different trap. Yeah, that's what it was. Right there, that right row. It's basically like a grid system. If that one's lit and this one's lit, then this one right here that's lit up isn't going to be on fire. And then it's just paying attention to the pattern and timing it. Now these things do hit very hard, but again we have the thing to disarm them, which helps a lot. We don't see anything worth picking up on the map there, so we are just going to ignore that. And then same thing all throughout here. We'll grab that ore, and we'll go over here, open this door and get this chest and this gold. And then, as always, we are going to drop all these enemies before we even consider touching that trap. Because nothing's worse than when you're trying to time something and you can't move. So we can see it's on the top left. As with before, confident in our tankiness. Still take quite a bit of damage. And again, we're pretty much a pure tank build. If you were anything that wasn't this tanky, that probably would have one hit. So again, same thing. We want to clear the bulk of the enemies out here before we touch this trap. Extra attack power and primary damage, which is perfect. As you can see, you do not block the damage from that trap for those projectiles. And then further down here, we don't want to miss out on this shopkeeper. Shopkeepers are one of the best things that you can run into in the dungeons because you can get a bulk of items from them. And you can choose multiple different items. So Magebane is going to be really good for us because, again, we got that Incendiary Demise, which is magic damage. Again, extra damage on the primary attack. Always a good thing for primary builds. Now we have a selection that we can do here, but I think the two best ones, because we're really hoping not to be low on health a lot of the time, so that's would only help us if we were running super low and just eating the damage while attacking. This would help us block stuff behind us, but again, you can usually just aim at what you're attacking. This one is a nice one though. Nearby enemies take 20% more damage. Any enemies that are taking damage are always nearby to you with this build. So we are going to speed back here and grab these ores. And again, as I mentioned before, this is definitely my preferred fountain setup. Yeah, you can't restock on potions, but we haven't had to use a single potion while we've been playing yet. We just have that much lifesteal. So again, he does that attack, then we're going to back off while he does that one, because as you can see, just that alone dropped us to about 50% health there. And then it goes into the center, and we want to activate the cross here, and then we are good to continue. Extra skill power and drops a bomb when invading. It's alright. not the best. And then again, as I mentioned before, items are based on magic damage, or sorry, skill damage, or skill power. So this isn't going to be helping us very much. Even though it procs off of the primary attack, it's still skill power based. So 150 for skill power or attack power isn't too bad at the beginning of the game at all. But at this stage where we are later on, we generally want to be looking at about 300, 250. So we aren't going to get use out of those two mythic keys unless we're lucky. But all the extra cash doesn't hurt at all. Now that's going to be really nice for us, whether you are physical or primary or skill power based. Extra skill power and attack power during combo by 60, as long as you are a combo build. So there's a bit of gold there, but we're not going to worry too much about that. Our big focus right now, because we're not going to be running into any more shops, is the ore. Ore is worth a lot more than the cash. Okay, so we got this little circle there. And it's probably the most dangerous thing on this stage is those switches. You want to make sure the bulk of your enemies are cleared unless you are pretty well built. Simply because damage does stack up no matter how tanky you get. And again, since this is a roguelike, when you die, you're dead. You have to go back to the beginning of the tower. And you lose all the items that you collected. You do keep... Oh, you lose the ore and the gold. And any bought keys and stuff. But you don't lose any of the upgrades that you got in town. Or your level. Like, I am level 82 on my paladin. So if I died right now, I still have the 1,000 whatever ore in town that I had. But I wouldn't have this extra 256 or... I'd still be level 82, or if I level up to 83 in this run and then died, I'd still be level 83. You still have your attunement from your anvil in town and everything else. Okay. So again, the part that I generally am pretty loose with potions. In hindsight there, I shouldn't have popped that one potion for an example though, because I cannot use that to replenish my potions. But we should still be fine to continue the run all the way through. Now again, hope for a phoenix feather. Nope. That's fine too though. And then we're at the final boss again. So you can see how we had that gargle type of sound and that charge up. That was the frost breath that I was talking about earlier. Now, there's more of the frost breath. And voila. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Any questions, or if you want to see me play a specific game, leave a comment. And if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. Have a great day.